Happy Wednesday to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here for a look at your extended forecast. My main message throughout this entire forecast is going to be soak up whatever sunshine that you can find as we go into this afternoon, because the pattern is going to get dreary and messy very quickly once again. But over the past 2 days, we've actually started December off on a pretty wet note. How about this? A quarter of an inch of rainfall on the 1st of December, but then yesterday, mainly just past the midnight hour into those early morning hours, we clocked an inch of rain here at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. And pairing this up against what we saw in November, this is nearly already an inch above the rainfall that we saw throughout the entirety of November. So in total, just under 1¼ of an inch of rain so far in the first 2 days of December. Average is around 4 inches of rainfall, just over 4 inches of rainfall at 4.11. And we do have another widespread rainmaker in store. And if it's to dump some of the forecasted totals over Central Georgia, we would already be pretty close to average by the time we roll into the end of this weekend, giving you an idea that yes, it is going to be a dreary month of December, or at least it is starting out that way. The record back in 2015, so just a decade ago, 12.62 inches of rain in the month of December. I imagine Christmas was rather soggy about 10 years ago, excuse me. And we will continue to see if we'll have another couple of widespread rainmakers. But the big deal with this past rainmaker, obviously the totals weren't out of this world by any means. We saw widespread totals of about an inch to maybe about an inch and a half of rain in some areas that did fall just short of that 1 inch mark. But up in Middle Georgia Regional Airport, it did do something, and it finally flipped this number back above average. So it's been below average for the last couple of days, maybe dating to the past week. But now for the month of December, so far, the first 2 days obviously, an inch above where we should be in terms of rainfall. We typically see just under 1/4 of an inch on average throughout all December since we started taking records. So 1 inch above that average mark so far, and we will continue to keep our fingers crossed that we have a green box on this graphic to kind of compensate for all of the red boxes that we've seen over the past 6 months. In fact, 4 out of the last 5 months have been below average in terms of your rainfall, but August was a staggering 6 inches above average, and that's what really put our totals way over the top, gave us a cushion on that year departure of rain, and it looks like we're finally getting back to normal after a very dry stretch and expanded drought conditions all across the area. So rain chances are going to return tomorrow on Thursday afternoon. It is going to be a dreary start to the weekend, and could that dreary start continue to linger into, say, Saturday, when we have a lot of festivities and events going on here in Central Georgia. But the chilly weather is here to stay. That is the one constant. With a lot of variables working in your forecast, this will be the one control. It is going to be chilly no matter rain or shine each and every day. So here's a look around the quad, where we see some sunshine down in Warner Robins, some peaks of blue sky down here at the Georgia National Fairgrounds, but still a mostly cloudy atmosphere, mostly cloudy down in Dublin, and completely cloudy up here in downtown Macon. So it does look like some areas are holding on to more dense cloud cover than others, and I imagine that is correlating on your temperature map. How about this? We're still stuck in the upper 30s in many Central Georgia cities. 37 in Thomaston, 39 in Forsyth, Montezuma, going down to Unadilla, Eastman, also a trail of 39s here from Gordon all the way up through Milledgeville into Sparta. But it's a good mix of upper 30s and low 40s. 45 is the warmest number, and Vidalia has been sitting at that temperature since very early this morning when it was still dark outside, so we really haven't seen a warm up over the last couple of hours. But we're not alone in this big cool down. We do see many of our neighboring states having similar temperatures to us. It looks like the more humid and the warmer areas are going to be down closer to the coast, and especially as you go down into Florida, 70 degrees down in Orlando. That is in the neighborhood of around 10 degrees warmer than each and every city that you do see here in the eastern United States. But this does make sense. You probably heard a lot of stories about some winter weather up in the Ohio Valley region, maybe getting up into New England, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Well, obviously we have some cold temperatures, and many of the numbers are below freezing in that portion of the country, but it's just cold absolutely everywhere. Even over in Texas, still in the low 50s, 55 in Laredo, so 70 is a bit of an outlier, and I imagine it's even warmer down, say, in Miami, West Palm Beach, those areas on the southern tip of the Florida Peninsula. So dew point temperatures, they have gotten a decrease as well. So on the backside of this low pressure system that passed through yesterday, early yesterday morning, we have gotten an influx of drier air and some substantially cooler air. But that's mainly because we finally saw the cloud cover fall apart. Those widespread cloudy skies kept our morning lows a tad bit warmer than average over the last couple of days. But the downside of it was we didn't see much in the way of above average temperatures in the afternoon. We were well below average, somewhere in the 50s each of the last couple of days. So there's really no humidity to talk about even anywhere here in the southeast United States. And obviously we won't really talk about it too much as we now are heading into the thick of the winter season. Winter still obviously about 18 days away, but meteorological winter got going on the 1st of December on Monday. And yes, our temperatures are cooling down right on cue. Here's a look at the winds and the wind gusts. Not too much of a breeze, but still with temperature values somewhere in the lower portion of the 40s, even the upper 30s. Even if you just have a 5 to 7 mile per hour breeze, areas like Butler over to Thomaston and Cochran down to Vidalia as well, that can make for feels like numbers that are a couple degrees below the actual temperatures. So it is just a downright chilly day, no way around it. Just make sure you're staying bundled up. May even need something in the way of a beanie or some kind of winter coat and scarf to keep yourself warm. So here's a look at the numbers yesterday. 43 for a morning low temperature and 55 degrees for a high temperature yesterday. So your high, obviously well below average, but your morning low temperature still a couple degrees above average of 39 degrees this time of year. Nowhere near your records of 81 for a high temperature back in 1982 and 21 degrees back in 1964. So yes, it is still a pretty cold atmosphere here at the 11 a.m. hour, but thankfully we're not talking about temperatures in the neighborhood of the 20s, and we have seen some of those record lows get as low as 10 degrees, I think is the record low that I've seen as of recently. So very thankful. It always could be worse, even if you do think the forecast is way too chilly, a little bit too early and a little bit too prematurely. So in terms of rainfall, we already talked about this a little. 1 inch of rainfall puts this number back with a positive in front of it. So hovering just above 1/4 of an inch above where we should be at this point in 2025. I imagine this number is going to steadily decrease throughout the next 2 days until we get to Friday, and then we welcome back those more widespread rain chances. Sunrise at 7:20 yesterday and sunset was at 5:28 p.m. In fact, it was actually closer to around 5:27 over the last couple of days. So December 1st on Monday did mark the beginning of a stretch of about 6 days where we will have our earliest sunset of the year. So the sunset time around 5:27 p.m. I know the Almanac said 5:28, but there's always about a minute of disagreement amongst what we actually see and what the Almanac graphic does say. So we will continue to have that 5:27 p.m. sunset until we get into December 7th. Then I think it goes back to 5:28. And then it will steadily get a little bit later each and every day, but the sunrise is going to continue to get later and later all the way until December 21st. So as you see right there, 7:21 a.m. was the sunrise time this morning, 1 minute later than what we saw yesterday. And it was an even colder start to the morning hours. But the main highlight of today is we finally have a break in the rain chances. We've had plenty of dreary conditions over the last couple of days. I think some sunshine is going to be welcome. However, you may think with peaks of sunshine, it will result in some warmer temperatures. It's actually going to do quite the opposite. 55 is my forecasted high for today. And you may say, well, this is exactly what we hit yesterday. We hit 55 degrees. Well, similar to yesterday, remember I had a high temperature of 62 degrees. I said only a select few areas are going to reach that high temperature. That is the case with this 55 degree mark today. The farther north that you live, you very well may not get out of the upper 40s throughout today. And we do see that already in full swing and already happening with some temperatures that are still lingering in the upper 30s and obviously the low 40s. We still have about 15 degrees to go in most areas of central Georgia before we get to this high temperature. But even if you do hit 55, still 9 degrees below average for this time of year. Very thankfully, we're not pairing this up with anything in the way of gusty winds. The winds are going to be calm all throughout today. So here's what your meteogram looks like. This is mainly for just the Macon area, finally increasing up into the mid 40s. And then as we start to get some breaks in cloud cover, you'll see a more significant bump up. And that's what looks to take place between 1 and 2 p.m. 49 up to 51 and 52. But 52 is where we peak. So like I said, the farther north that you live, your numbers are going to be in the upper 40s and the lower half of the 50s, really the low 50s, 51, 52, 53. It's the farther south that you go down that you actually will see some mid 50s. But all in all, upper 40s and mid 50s are virtually feeling the same. It is going to be a chilly afternoon. So like I said, continue to bundle up, continue to wear that windbreaker, whatever layering that you've had on throughout the morning hours, you are going to need as you go into the evening hours, because take a look at how quickly we cool back down into the mid 40s by 6 p.m. and the numbers are only going to continue to drop as we are forecasting some relatively clear skies overnight into the early morning hours tomorrow. So here's your satellite and radar picture. We had some issues with the cloud cover getting seen on this graphic over the last couple of hours, but it looks like it is back working once again. So widespread cloud cover. Future View has only really been picking up on this northeastern quadrant of the clouds over the last couple of days, not necessarily the southern component of it that is very widespread, but we do see some gaps in the cloud cover in our westernmost counties over into northern Houston County, which we got a glimpse of on our Warner Robins Skycam, and maybe some patches of clearing down there just to the south of Dublin, south of I-16. But this cloud cover isn't going to be present all afternoon long. We'll show you what Future View has to say about that in just a moment. So all across the state of Georgia, it is mainly the same story. We actually do see some clearing up here around the metro Atlanta area, getting into the foothills of the North Georgia mountains, maybe up to Gainesville, areas over to the east of Atlanta. But all in all, we have plenty of cloud cover all over the southeast. So that's why our forecast is looking pretty similar. And those temperatures that I showed you on the temperature map are very similar in many of our neighboring states and cities. So here's what Future View has as we go into this afternoon. Remember, I was saying it's really only picking up on this northeastern cluster of cloud cover, but starting to see steady clearing in that as we go into, say, around 3 p.m. this afternoon. Obviously, there's more clouds over to the west, but that's mainly of the higher level cloud cover variety. So not going to do much in the way of blocking your sunshine, but I do anticipate some breaks in the cloud cover more and more the farther and farther that you go into the afternoon time frame. And here's 6 p.m. right there just past sunset, and it looks like we still have some clouds in the forecast, but we will see some peaks of sunshine. Now, if this cloud cover holds on, we don't necessarily see as many breaks in it. Then, of course, your temperatures are very likely going to go well below your high temperature of 55 degrees, so you could be stuck in the 40s all afternoon long. Now let's transition into Thursday morning, 7 a.m. So not looking as clear as the last couple of model runs have looked. If you tuned into the morning show, you probably saw me talking about, hey, we're going to get a good image of that sunrise over to the east on Thursday morning. Well, we do have a few clouds over here to the east. It remains to be seen how much sunlight we are going to see right there around the 7 to 7:30 time frame. Remember, sunrise going to be just past 7:20 in the morning. But as we continue into the morning hours and transition into the afternoon time frame, just past lunchtime, it is a story of overcast skies far and wide, dense cloud cover, and along with that dense cloud cover, a couple of light showers that will try to pass through central Georgia. We will see the main axis of rain down to the south of us, but it could clip our southernmost counties as early as Thursday afternoon. Not going to be near as widespread as what we see as we transition into Friday, and we're already seeing signs of that fastly approaching. This is Thursday at 10 p.m. Good cluster of light showers in our southernmost counties. Don't get locked into this because this is just what the latest graph model run does say, but we do have the potential for seeing rain starting on Thursday afternoon, going into the evening hours, continuing into the overnight hours before we go into widespread rain all across not only central Georgia, but most of the state of Georgia. This is 4 a.m. on Friday. Very thankfully, before many of you get up and going for that morning commute, but some of you maybe have an earlier wake-up call, maybe going out to the gym, and are obviously trying to get a couple things done before you head into work or maybe an early breakfast. It does look like widespread, at least light rain showers, but also some pockets of that steadier and that heavier rain, just like we were talking about as of yesterday morning. That forecast looks to ensue as we go into Friday morning, but the difference between yesterday and the rainmaker that we do have for the end of the work week, we will have some gaps and it will appear as the rain is clearing out of the forecast at times. I think what you need to plan on is widespread rain that will be on and off. So obviously our southern counties, if we go to 10 a.m., doesn't look like they're receiving much in the way of rain. However, we are going to continue to see wave after wave of rain, and it just continues to flow through central Georgia, coming from southwest all the way up to the northeast. and this main axis of rain, it's all going to be caused by another Gulf low, a closed off low pressure system that is going to be to the southwest of us. But that's once again going to form along one of those stationary boundaries. So that's why we kind of see a bit of a linear shape with your rain, and it just continues to come in round after round as we progress throughout the afternoon hours on Friday. Not looking like a complete washout. However, as of the last model run, it was looking like a complete washout for Friday evening. So play it by ear is my main message for any plans that you have at the beginning of your weekend on Friday evening. It does look like the farther south that you live, that's where the most confidence is going to be in some steadier rain and even some heavier rain. And remember, I was referring to that linear shape of this. Take a look at that. That is almost a continuous, pretty thin line of rain, but it just continues to envelop central Georgia within it. This is Friday at 11 p.m. and we'll go all the way to the end of Future View. 4 a.m. on Saturday, we are still holding on to some rain showers in the forecast, still mainly down towards the south, but we also could see this build back up to the north as we go into the morning hours, specifically the afternoon hours on Saturday. I'll show you my thinking with the long range models, because Saturday, obviously the day that many of you are looking forward to, and many people in Warner Robins obviously want to know what that forecast is going to be for the Christmas parade at 10 a.m. So for Future View, if we go with that exact same model run I just played through for you, the graph model is hinting at, once again, some pretty impressive rainfall totals. This is going to be anywhere from just below an inch of rain all the way up to maybe an inch and a half of rain. And of course, in these very kind of dark maroon and purple shades that you do see, that's going to be your isolated totals upwards to 2 inches of rain. And now this is just the beginning, or maybe about 2/3 of the way through this multi-day rain event that will settle in for the end of the work week. So these totals already, adding them up with what we did see over the course of the past 24 hours, we've already gotten about 1.25 inches of rain in southern Bibb County. If we add another inch to that, that's obviously going to put us halfway to average for the entire month of December, and that's going to continue to improve those dry conditions that we've had. But also Saturday, we once again look to add more and more rain to those totals that we do see just throughout the course of the next 3 days. So like I said, soak up this forecast that we have this afternoon while it lasts. Partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies throughout most of this afternoon, and 55, very good likelihood that most of you don't even reach that high temperature. So going to be a chilly afternoon. Thankfully, we don't have anything in the way of gusty winds to make those numbers necessarily feel too much colder, but obviously running in the neighborhood of maybe around 10 to 15, maybe even 18 degrees below your average high temperature of 64 degrees this time of year. Thursday is going to be a very similar story temperature-wise. A very cold start right around the 30-degree mark at the lowest, and an afternoon high temperature somewhere in the mid-50s. And I imagine it's going to be the same story. Areas farther up to the north going to be a little bit cooler, and areas farther down to the south, maybe those areas they do get some peaks of sunshine, that's who has the potential to reach that mid-50s mark. 20% chance of a light shower throughout tomorrow. I wouldn't put too much stock into seeing some rain throughout your Thursday, but it's going to be the first of a couple of days that you need to go ahead and break the rain jacket back out of the closet, take it off the coat rack, and just keep it in your passenger seat in your car, wherever you are going out and about for. And then we have a lot more widespread rain on Friday. Obviously, there are only certain times that all of central Georgia is engulfed within some rain, but the cloud cover is staying present really starting tomorrow afternoon, and it will continue to be overcast and in the form of dense cloud cover. So it's going to be blocking a lot of sunshine. We're not going to see much sunshine over the course of Thursday into Friday. So that's why you also see a slightly warmer morning low temperature value, somewhere in the low 40s. So maybe feeling a bit more pleasant as you head out the door compared to this morning and Thursday morning. But the downside is your afternoon high temperature is not going to get much higher. So widespread cloud cover from sunup all the way to sundown, that does really shrink down the temperature spread that you see between the mornings and in the afternoons. We might just be in the 40s from midnight on Friday all the way going into midnight on Saturday, and a very good chance at rain, even some pockets of steady and heavy rain like we were talking about yesterday. I have a 90% chance right now. I imagine we'll bump that up to a 100% chance of rain over the next couple of days. So morning low temperatures, they do get that bump up into the low 40s, just above average this time of year as we head into Saturday and Sunday. Really not much change, still starting out maybe around 40 degrees, just a couple degrees above it, going to feel pretty much the same all across central Georgia and a tad bit better than this morning and tomorrow morning will feel. But your afternoon high temperatures, they are going to go down steadily as we do get that increase in cloud cover. But as we go into Saturday afternoon, I do believe that we are going to start to see maybe some gaps in that cloud cover, and it will lead to a steady warm up as we head into the end of the weekend. But 60 degrees, that's going to be the warmest temperature I have on your 7-day forecast, indicating that it will still be a very chilly stretch. So here's a look at the long range models. We're picking them up on Saturday morning, kind of where we left off on your short range, high resolution future view. It still looks like there's pretty decent agreement. There are some areas of blue underneath this swath of green, but the GFS model is the one that's really picking apart at widespread rain still in the vicinity of central Georgia. But it actually just only continues to get heavier and heavier as we go into Saturday afternoon and evening. That's where we'll start to see these darker greens. We'll start to see the yellows, indicating a lot of agreement and a lot of overlap in the main axis of rain being somewhere in south central Georgia. So as it's shaping up right now, my confidence in rain for Saturday has increased. However, what time of the day and where that rain is located is still a bit up in the air. That's why we're waiting to get the whole big picture view, all of Saturday within view of our higher resolution models. And that way we can see how heavy the rain is going to be and where it is going to be located. And very likely, we are right now having talks about issuing another weather impact alert, given the fact that, yes, you have the Warner Robins Christmas Parade, you have the Mercer playoff game against South Dakota. It's not looking like the best forecast for it. So I would go ahead and make plans to have the rain gear ready to go for either of those events. Right now, Warner Robins is going to try to make a decision on Friday afternoon about if the Christmas Parade will take place. And I imagine Mercer will very likely be playing rain or shine. It may be a messy atmosphere out there at Five Star Stadium, but it's not looking to be anything in the way of severe weather. We're not looking at anything in the way of lightning to prompt some delays. It's just going to be a very cold rain. So obviously not the most conducive forecast. I know South Dakota will probably be feeling right at home with some chilly rain in the forecast, and they'll probably be thankful that it's not of the frozen variety. However, it's something that obviously will have some implications in the game, and I do imagine the game will roll on. So make sure that you're bundling up and you have the rain gear ready to go for any plans that you have on Saturday right now. And it looks like rain chances will still hold on into Sunday morning, but then finally we do see most of the rain down to the south and the southeast of us. The GFS is hinting that there's some moisture available up here to the north of us. However, if that comes to fruition, still kind of remains to be seen. I have lower rain chances for Monday, even though this does look widespread, because I also don't see the European model getting on board with this idea of widespread rain across Georgia, South Carolina, up into North Carolina and Virginia. We'll continue to get a better idea of that as we get closer, but it does look like some form of a frontal boundary is going to come through at the end of the weekend, and that's a big reason why we start to push most of those rain chances that we have Friday and Saturday out of the picture by Sunday and into Monday. But then by the time we roll into Tuesday, how about a crystal clear day in the forecast? I think we're warranted one after a very dreary stretch of cloudy and cold and rainy weather. But it does look like as we go into Wednesday, maybe some signs of another weather maker trying to form. Still don't have anything in the way of rain chances, but Wednesday, in fact, not even on your 7-day forecast as of right now. So let's go ahead and talk about all of these days. What are we going to add in terms of rainfall? Well, if you go the GFS route, obviously it's going to be a very messy forecast for almost the entirety of your weekend ahead, but it's going to give us some pretty impressive totals. How about this? 3 inches of rain, 4 inches of rain, 4.5 inches of rain. We haven't seen colors this bright on the scale or even this far above 1 inch in nature in quite some time. So obviously, if we were to get this amount of rain, I imagine our drought conditions might even go away completely. So it wouldn't always be the worst thing if we are to get a complete washout of a couple of days. This multi-day rain event does look to send us some pretty substantial totals. However, the European model, definitely not on board with that idea. It does maintain the idea that farther to the south, you do see some localized heavier rainfall totals and some higher rainfall totals. But the farther north that you go, maybe just shy of 1 inch of rain. All in all, that's not too bad whatsoever, but it does look like the GFS is hinting at a whole lot more rain than the European model. And right now, the guidance from the National Weather Service with the latest forecast discussion is saying most totals should be within the 1 to 3 inch range. And farther to the south, we could see some totals even higher than 3 inch. So I think that's backing the GFS model a lot more than this European model. So I wouldn't put too much stock into maybe getting some gaps in that rain to get those outdoor plans in throughout Saturday. So here's a look at your 7-day forecast. Well below average. It's just kind of been shocking to see some temperatures this cold for a change, even some high temperatures that are somewhere in the neighborhood of the upper 40s, the lower half of the 50s. We will try to see a bit of a warm up as we go into Sunday. High temperature of 60 degrees. That's still 4 degrees below average for this time of year. And then as we transition into the beginning of the week next week, I do have your rain chances steadily tapering off Sunday into Monday, but still holding on to a slim 20% chance of rain. But we'll start to see steadily more sunshine in the forecast in the back half of Monday, and eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, a completely crystal clear Tuesday afternoon, but still going to be mightily chilly. As we get the clearing in this cloud cover, your morning low temperatures dip back down to around 30 degrees. So bringing in December with some very appropriate feeling weather. However, the dreary weather is something we have been searching for quite some time, but it's obviously not lining up for many plans that we do have to kick off the Christmas season. Of course, the playoff game for Mercer. Like I said, my confidence in rain is increasing for Saturday. I still want to get a view of where all of the rain is going to sit, and of course, if we are going to see anything in the way of some heavy showers. That would obviously make us prompt a weather impact alert for most of the day on Saturday for the sake of some big outdoor plans. Warner Robins Christmas Parade, I've been there myself growing up as a kid. It is a hot commodity. You line up the streets on Watson Boulevard on South Davis Drive. So obviously we want all of you to know and want all of you to be prepared if you are heading out to that parade, if it is still to take place on Saturday. And the Mercer football game, like I mentioned, that is a much lesser likelihood of getting canceled just for some cold rain that could be in the forecast. If we don't have anything in the way of lightning, I imagine they're still going to play on at Five Star Stadium, so we want all of you that are heading out to catch your Mercer Bears in that playoff game. It's a very historic game. First time that Mercer football has hosted a playoff game since they brought football back. Obviously, many of you going to go out there, show your support. We want you to be prepared. We want you to know what to expect for that Saturday forecast, but it's something we're still having talks with right now. If we are to pop up, say, a red box on here on your 7-day forecast for tomorrow morning, then you will know it's a weather impact alert. Not going to mean anything different than what I just said. It's just going to really emphasize the fact that you need to stay prepared and you need to pay close attention to the radar, know how to dress if you are having any plans to go out to any of those outdoor activities. But tomorrow is going to be Thursday, so that means another update of the drought monitor is coming out. Typically, this hasn't meant much besides the worsening of drought conditions as of recently. However, this drought monitor, it will be taking yesterday and Monday's rainfall into account. So I do imagine maybe some areas of improvement, maybe getting most of this severe drought out of the picture, maybe going back down to a moderate drought. And then the rainfall that we have in store for this weekend, that will be taken into account with next week's drought monitor. So after the next two updates of the drought monitor, I do expect some improvement and some alleviation. However, some areas might just remain in the same category that they have stood at. But not to worry if this next update that we get tomorrow, say you're still sitting in a severe drought, maybe even an extreme drought down in southern areas of Crisp County. We have a whole lot more rain in store, and especially for areas of Southwest Georgia, Southeast Alabama, and Southern Central Georgia. We have a whole lot of rain that does look to be on the way as we go into the weekend. We're going to get totals of 3 to 4 inches of rain. We're going to get out of those drought conditions very, very quickly. So it does look like we have just what the doctor ordered in terms of some widespread rainfall, but it may not be lining up with some of your afternoon plans. So continue to soak up whatever sunshine that you can see throughout your Wednesday afternoon, because we are flipping the script once again and turning into a very dreary stretch of cloudy and some rainy weather as we head into the weekend. So right now, Friday, have a good confidence in on and off rain, even some steady and heavy showers present all over central Georgia throughout the afternoon and the evening hours for any beginning of the weekend plans. Saturday is still a bit up in the air, but I am having more confidence that we are going to see a good amount of rain as we go into Saturday. So make sure you're staying bundled up and keep the rain gear close by. Maybe keep it in the passenger side of your car. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you once again at 11 a.m. tomorrow for another look at your extended forecast.